Well, hello there, FC Dallas Curious fan, and welcome to episode 65 of Third Degree, the podcast. I'm Dan Crooke. Buzz is currently out travelling this great country of ours. Yours. Whatever, I've got papers. Today we're talking to representatives from FC Dallas's two supporters groups. Stephen Goold is the president of the Dallas Beer Guardians and the chap you'll see waving the enormous flag in the beer garden. Luis Dollar also joins us. Luis is part of El Matador leadership, and you'll often spot him on a capo box leading El Matador chants during games. As well as things pertaining to the supporters groups, we'll also talk a little about some news that broke earlier this week. Jesse Gonzalez was suspended by MLS after Frisco Police Department received an allegation of domestic abuse. Jesse is currently being evaluated by doctors as part of the league protocol. I was able to ask for an update on Jesse on a conference call with Luchi Gonzalez on Wednesday, and here's what he had to say.
Right now, the league is very important in giving us updates on Jesse. I know he's well. I know he's been very cooperative and forthcoming and in communication with people that are trying to learn more. And so just waiting to learn more and get more information so that we understand the league's perspective and standpoint, and then the club can go ahead and then have its own.
The other big piece of news was that MLS finally announced the ridiculously named MLS's Back tournament. This was recorded before Thursday's draw, so it's more reaction to the tournament as a whole. And I will apologise in advance, there were some sound issues with Stephen's side, but it should be a good listen, and thanks again for checking in with us. Stephen, Luis, how are you both?
Yeah, doing good. Thanks for inviting us.
Stephen, are you there?
Yeah, thanks, Dan. Great.
Good stuff. You know, so the first thing, we always like to ask people their soccer story, particularly when it comes to the supporters groups, to illustrate that it's not that guy who's more often than not going to shout off on a capo box with a big loudspeaker and the guy with a flag that's bigger than the stadium itself. So let's start with you, Luis. What's your soccer story? What gave you the passion for the game?
Yeah, so for me, soccer has been something that's almost been instilled in me from the time I was ever born. I mean, my family, half my family is from Uruguay, South America. Obviously, in Uruguay, we love our football. My grandfather played for the great team Peñarol in Uruguay, for those who are familiar. And so soccer's always been something that was instilled in me from a family level. I played all the way growing up, played for the Dallas Texans all the way through high school. I played soccer at Nolan Catholic, where I won state. So soccer's always been something where that I've been massively engaged with. And then one of the things that's I find most appealing about soccer culture is the fact that we do have our local teams, and that the fact that we can wear our pride for those teams on our sleeve, and I think the best way to do that is definitely join a supporters group. And so like I was saying, when I first started going to FC Dallas games in Frisco, my parents would take me when I was back 2011, 2010, during our MLS Cup runs, etc. I looked over and I said, I want to support my team in the greatest possible way. And oftentimes we go to the games, and I was 13, 14 years old, and I just couldn't sit still in my seat. I wanted to get up and do something and yell and sing and chant. And so EM provided that avenue for me. And I couldn't be more grateful for the people that I've met along the way. And really how much of an impact EM's had on my life is you can't quantify that value. It's been great. And so that's my soccer story. I still live, breathe, eat football, and EM was the best avenue for me to continue to do that.
Does it make a difference, coming from a Uruguayan background, to have that kind of Latin style of support with El Matador?
Yeah, for sure. One of the other things that to kind of piggyback off of that is obviously for those who've been around FC Dallas for a while, there was a age restriction for the beer garden where DBG is located, and so for a while there, most people who were underage didn't really have a place other to go than EM. And for me, that was a no-brainer given the fact, like you said, I really value the Hispanic style supporters group culture. Growing up in Uruguay, when we go to Uruguay and we go to games, etc., the big hinchadas of Nacional, which is the team I support in Uruguay, and Peñarol, and for those of you who have seen YouTube videos or Facebook videos of like the big clubs in Argentina, Brazil, Colombia, like that culture for me is beats out all the rest. And obviously, no culture is superior to the other. But for me personally, the Hispanic culture that EM brought was always going to be a big selling point for me joining EM.
Awesome, I appreciate it. And Stephen, I've always known you as more of a lacrosse guy outside of FC Dallas. So what got you into soccer?
Man, it's kind of they sort of parallel, right? And all my friends in high school and then also in college were I guess equally split on the lacrosse and the soccer teams. And there wasn't pro lacrosse to watch, so we would watch a lot of professional soccer. And I think at that time it was really when the European leagues and especially the Champions League final was really starting to be more readily available to the public in the U.S. And so, it's not something where we were necessarily watching a league every weekend like we can now during the weeks. It was more of this kind of like allure of the World Cup and every 4 years the world's best, and there was no other sport. I guess when I was sort of reaching my soccer consciousness, I felt like there was no other sport that sort of competed like that, right? Like there's no other sport where the World Cup is sort of held at that pinnacle, and then you get into the club like all across the world, and I think it's each sort of subcontinent has its own unique characteristics to how they support, right? So massive choreography, tifos, whatever it is, like everybody does a little bit of it all, but some people do a whole lot better, and so it was so unique to see that, and it's not something you see in any other sport in the world. Like there's people that write in Sharpie on a little science project board from Walmart and they bring it to the Cowboys game, and that's fantastic. But there's no other team in the Metroplex that's going to put a 30 by 45 piece of fabric and ask 50 or 100 of their members to come out and paint it before a game. That just doesn't happen anywhere else. And so I think that uniqueness just struck a chord with me, and something where I thought, that's really what I want to do. That's how I can show my sort of support and good value for a supporters culture and a club atmosphere. So to me, that's what always attracted that, right? And like I said, I was a little bit spoiled seeing Champions League finals and things like that. But for the World's game was just seeing that type of support and how it sort of changes from that barrio style of support in South America to sort of the massive choreography in Asia, and then you have the pyrotechnic heavy stuff and the tifo heavy stuff in Europe and North Africa, and it's I mean, at times it's intoxicating. You see that stuff, to me, you can't help but feel like you're part of something bigger than yourself, and it's an easy way to get out there and contribute, and like I said, just create that atmosphere of supporting your club and having pride in not only FC Dallas but Dallas. So that's where I grew up, and for me, that's my local club.
So I guess let's get down to business. What have the supporters groups been up to in this COVID enforced time off?
We been keeping our internal meetings pretty static. Took a minor break there for the officer group, but we've been meeting, as officers and just kind of establish what we want to do with all of this downtime and all the resources that we have available to our group and what we can do to kind of help the community, right? So that's been an internal FIFA tournament that we've been running for the last, I guess, week or so. That should hopefully line up nicely with the ISC tournament that they're going to do towards the end, so we can kind of send a winner to nationals. We just recently put out a statement of support through all of our social media, including members of the community, to donate to Bloody and Justice Foundations, both at a local and a national level. And DBG has been matching those donations, up to right now our goal is $1,500, and we're hoping to beat that. So we continue to match and match beyond whatever we hit a maximum of. So that's been kind of the last couple of months for us, just trying to make sure that everyone in our community is doing well and doing what we can to kind of support, our members. And recently just engaging with the club around what's next and sort of what we expect in the next couple of weeks and coming months, and what the end of the season, or I guess getting the season first, is what we need to talk about, but what that might look like in the back half.
Yeah, and then for us over at Matador, this break that we've had has been, it came at a really terrible time, really. I mean, those first two games that we had, we thought we had the ball rolling to something pretty good for this season, but it's been rough for us in a way. A lot of us have had our struggles with being off of work, the schools being out for a lot of our members, so we're dealing with the real life consequences of these type of situations. But as far as our outlook of what we're going to be going forward here, we're going to be doing things, and I guess we'll get into it later on, but once this tournament starts back up here in Orlando, we are going to be hosting watch parties for the public, things along those lines. And we've also still been in contact with these high schools that we've been talking to prior to this season to start to see where they're at in regards to the games that will be coming up eventually here pretty soon. So other than that, not really much. It's been, like I said, it feels like a long off season. So like Steven said, we've been in preliminary talks with the club over the past couple of weeks in regards to what to look forward to here in the next few months. But yeah, we're looking forward to this Orlando tournament and just kind of see where things take us.
You both mentioned, obviously, speaking to the front office. How have things been in terms of, have they suggested anyway that the groups can support the team from afar, and how maybe the reverse, what the club can do for the groups?
Yeah, thanks again, man. I was just thinking about some of the some of the early emails, just kind of keep everybody informed around as far as what the club is pushing out, and offering all that contact with players. And now obviously the latest call with the club is going to be Andre Zanata, so that'll be interesting to hear his thoughts tomorrow. And from sort of the get-go, they kind of set that cadence. But for us, really, I think outside of that, it's just been what can we do whenever things do open up. They were able to kind of provide us with some of the swag, some of those early matches that we had against the NYCFC supporters, and for our tournament that we're running right now as well. So that was really just kind of opening up the lines of communication around what that might be, what we could see ourselves doing, what we kind of have in the back of our minds for when things open up. And as far as supporting the players, they had Nicole reached out to I think both of our groups about being in a photo series that they ran, where and it's a national thing with all the other clubs, where they just kind of encourage people to show how they support the team and how they're doing it at home and with their whoever significant others or families, or whatever that might look like. So I think members of both groups participated in that, which was good and good to see. And then really just kind of putting out there what that might look like for, are we going to look to do like a drive-in movie theater away game? Are we going to be doing remote tailgates? Are we going to be doing, social distancing at the parking lot? What can we do when the team gets back on the pitch, and how can we be active in supporting them? I think the thing I'm looking forward to most right now is, we're all in agreement around some type of big send-off for whenever they get ready to go to Orlando. So really that's kind of what I've been focused on in the last probably 24 to 48 hours. And, looking forward to reaching out to everybody about what they feel like would be a great send-off, because I think that's a great opportunity for people to come out and support the club in whatever way we figure out, and really just show, we've been here the whole time, and we're ready. We're just as ready to get back as they are.
I will say, just talking about that, the photo shoot at MLS Commission, I would ordinarily say that, Benjamin probably doesn't wear the covering on his face all the time, and that you're not surrounded by two poles all the time, but I've been in your garage and you are surrounded by two poles all of the time.
Pretty much, yeah.
And Luis, has it been pretty similar with what the club have come back with?
Yeah, just like to add a couple things to what Stephen was saying. Obviously, what he brought up was is very similar to what we're doing with the club as well. But it is going to be interesting to see once we do return to games at Toyota Stadium. And earlier, before we started recording, we mentioned that MLS is looking to delegate to the states as to the requirements for capacity for stadiums and stuff like that. So it is going to be interesting to see once we return to playing at Toyota Stadium how social distancing and stuff like that is enforced, and in particular for the SGs, where that is going to be different than what we normally do, right? As SGs, we normally like to group up together, get real close to each other, just to create that atmosphere, etc. So that is going to be interesting to see how they move forward with that. We've had preliminary talks in regards to that social distancing in the Garden, but I'm actually really interested to see how they're going to do that in the Garden and outside of the Garden. So that should be interesting in the next couple of months.
So do you see both supporters groups staying in the Garden, in that whole social distance and atmosphere?
I would think so. If we're only going to be at what I think right now, Governor Abbott says 50% capacity for the stadium. I don't see why we couldn't be both still in the Garden. And maybe Stephen may be open to something like this. If we wanted to, since we are going to have a reduced capacity, it might behoove us to maybe move one group, depending on the game or whatever, however the layout looks inside the stadium, to maybe just a different part for 1 or 2 games to see if we can have more noise in other parts of the stadium. So I'm not sure how Stephen feels about that, but we'll see what the club enforces and what their guidelines are, but I'm always open to new things. So yeah.
I'm just interested to see. I guess they hosted a bunch of Frisco graduations for high school, right? So they had 10,000 people and kids and all that, right? And everybody was able to do their own thing, and the stadium holds 20,000, so half would be 10. And you know what I mean? I would hate for us not to be able to go because we're not going to be in the Garden, or you know what I mean? Somebody not be able to go because they're not going to be in the Garden. Like, I'm just wondering, like you're saying, how they're going to put the seats out, just how they're going to do that, right? They're not going to be able to honor everybody's exact tickets. I think we're going to have to probably look at something like that, right? Because you're talking, there's a maximum capacity of 900 in there, so 50% capacity in the Garden, able to get more than that plenty of times.
It makes it tough.
I think people are going to be crouched at the starting line ready for that. So
I think it makes it tough as well because, like you mentioned, it's 900 season ticket holders. It's not 900 people just buying a ticket on the day. So, if it is 50%, you are having to move a significant number of season ticket holders to a new location and take into account season tickets around those areas.
Yeah, so it might even behoove us to actually move one of the groups out. Maybe just depending on, like you said, how many people end up showing up. We probably are going to just have to do that. I mean, if we already have 900 season ticket members in the Garden, like you said, just pure math, that's just not going to work. So maybe we can we'll look into the best ways to move what normally would be SG season ticket holders into beneficial places, increase the atmosphere. But that should be interesting to talk with the club about here in the near future.
So DBG are doing a FIFA tournament. Are there any plans for our Matador to do anything kind of similar, just to have people interacting?
Yeah, we in regards to a FIFA tournament type of thing, we've talked about that in our internals over this break. But what we're going to be doing here pretty soon is what we like to do is obviously Zoom is the new thing now. Everybody's Zooming. So we here pretty soon in the next couple of weeks we're going to do a whole Zoom of the whole group just to see how everybody's doing. If anybody has any questions, if anybody has any concerns, and then also just to see everybody. One of the big things about being an SG is these people become friends and family almost, and so when you don't see these people for months on end, it sucks, So we are keeping in communication via our various social media things, but as far as a FIFA tournament in particular is concerned, we don't really have one planned as of yet. We've had, like I said, preliminary talks on that front. But man, I mean, if Steven, if we would want to do a DBG versus EM FIFA tournament, I'm totally down. Because one of the things that we didn't get to do during this break was have our supporters cup, which for most of the supporters could tell you that is one of the best days of the year. You get to play inside of Toyota Stadium against the other supporters group. and it's always a good time. So, I mean, if we want to take it into the digital, I'm totally down. And that would be something that our group would probably be interested in for sure.
I have a torn Achilles that says it's not always a good time.
And that happened, right? That was the last Supporters Cup, right?
That was the last one,
yeah. Yeah, that was brutal.
That was a lot of fun, though.
Bunch of ringers playing in that game, huh? I'll tell you what. Yeah, no, I'm kidding.
No, those are a great occasion. They're always fun especially for people that don't maybe have that close connection to people within the team, that they can go down on the field and play where they watch.
Yeah, there's no better feeling as a football fan of whatever team to be able to like play a somewhat competitive game inside of that stadium that you're always there every weekend. You know, that's nothing beats that for sure.
What I'd kind of like to, we're talking about MLS coming back, and fortunately today we found out the confirmed announcement of the ridiculously named MLS's back tournament. Luis, I'll throw it to you first. How do you feel about the tournament, and are you looking forward to it? Does it feel kind of forced?
Yeah, you know, this is going to be interesting. From a lot of the people that I talk with in the circles that I'm in, it almost feels like a preseason tournament, like a tournament of like no importance. So it is going to be interesting to see how MLS incentivizes this into being something of like of like an importance, you know. And also for a lot of people in our circles, you know, one of the things that makes us join SGs or be a part of these groups is like the ability to support your team in the stadium, right? And for a lot of people, that's going to be a turnoff, you know, playing in Orlando, very far away, no fans. So we'll see how high interest levels are in this, and see what MLS does to pique those interest levels across the various teams in the league. So, but as far as I guess my personal opinion, I don't know. It feels almost like it feels forced. It feels something of like a preseason, kind of like an Arizona thing that we usually do every year or whatever. Yeah. So. It's just, I don't know. I don't know if I can be that interested in something that like it just feels like it has no importance to what the actual like season will eventually end up being. So. And
Steven, how about yourself?
Man, I was real excited when I heard that they were close to finding a source or an option or whatever, and then obviously when the date came down, and I was kind of disappointed when I heard it was just going to be a regular season game. And I guess that's good, you know, and in some way to get guys out and let them get a run and. Had more than 2 tally marks everybody's season record, but you know, it just seemed kind of odd, I guess, to me to start the season that way and do some kind of like all-in-one tournament. And I know I'm coached like, you know, through my 20s and 30s, like that was always the place that teams went for like a summer tournament. So it always has that, like Luis was saying, it has that same kind of connotation to me when I heard that all the leagues were looking there. I just kind of always reminded me of those like massive high school tournaments that they hold there like constantly throughout the summer. So excited obviously to be able to get see the guys get out and like I said, get some competition in, and glad that MLS is starting back up, but it's going to be kind of a weird deal, and it's already going to be a weird season, and just kind of having that's those 2 different, I guess now 3 different quote unquote mini seasons within a season. It'll be interesting to kind of see how that all plays out at the end, and sort of what the whole year is going to be like. But yeah, definitely. You know, we'll talk about it again on June 8th or 9th, I guess, or July 9th.
Yeah, and talking about like it being like a high school tournament, even you'll speak to players and coaches on some of their conference calls the league are doing, and they're all saying the same things. Yeah, it's like playing the academy tournaments and the Disney tournaments when you're a kid, and Dallas Cup, and you know, I can't think how many times I've heard those comparisons made, and I'm just, you know, it's kind of a wonder how much it devalues the competition almost.
Things it's like to look over to our friends and comrades in Europe, and they're not doing anything close to this. Obviously, their seasons are way they're way longer into their seasons, but it almost feels like when, you know, the European games come back, and that might just be due to the fact that, like I said, that they've played more games in their season, but it almost feels like those games are already important, you know, whereas these don't even feel as important. And then and then given the fact that like MLS has a playoff system in which like we saw Seattle a couple of years ago, were like bottom of the league in July, and you know ended up winning MLS Cup, so it even like lessens. It almost feels like it lessens the importance of these games, but. that being said, like Steven said, I mean, we'll see how it goes, and I don't know, maybe MLS will surprise us and and make it worthwhile.
I mean, it's kind of crazy. The premise is that every team's going to play 3 group games, and then there'll be a 16-team elimination tournament. With the winner getting a spot in Champions League and as a $1.1 million prize pool. But on a call with Don Garber last week, he said originally, and he cited this $1 billion loss that MLS is expecting this year. I don't really know where they got that figure from, but it's like this tournament is really to recoup some of that as much as anything. And originally, what they wanted to do was twice the size.
Oh wow, jeez.
Yeah, I couldn't quite imagine that one.
I'd love to know where that number comes from. Just kind of like as like an aside, like 1 billion really in losses. I'd love to know that number, where that comes from or where he gets that. But yeah, that's neither here nor there. So
it was a Zoom call with the league and a ton of journalists across the country, and they didn't have the video on for anyone but Don Garber and Mark Abbott, the president of MLS. And if they had, there would have been so many scrunched up faces when he said that figure. Just like, where did you get that? It's definitely going to be interesting. It'd be great to have some soccer to talk about that isn't in a different country, particularly, as FC Dallas fans, being able to talk about that and to be a little bit more active. It's definitely going to be a little bit hard for some of the watch parties. The kickoff times, one of them is at 8 in the morning, to avoid the just the sheer heat and humidity in Orlando. Yeah, I guess we'll just have to see what comes of that, and it'd be great to see a send off or some kind of virtual support for FC Dallas from both of your groups.
Yeah, for sure, most definitely.
Speaking of the way that the group support it, El Matador is pretty known to be a group that likes to travel. Any thought of Crash in Disney?
Yeah, so like we were saying before we started recording, I mean, we had plans this season to go to Miami away. That was going to be our signature away game. It was going to be the first ever FC Dallas game in Miami. I guess Fort Lauderdale technically, but yeah, we were super looking forward to that. So that was on the books to do. But as far as this Orlando thing, I don't think we're going to be doing it, even though we love our travel, and we haven't traveled in a few months outside of our house and our grocery store. Yeah, as of right now, no. But like I said, we were still looking forward to going forth this year for different reasons. But as of right now, nothing's on the books. So
I guess a lot kind of depends on what the revised schedule is going to look like, and really what travel and the financial restraints on people with people being furloughed or losing work of some variety through it all. Yeah,
and I guess one thing that I just came to my mind is if, for instance, we do our FC Dallas thing and somehow end up making the final of this or whatever, I don't, and Dan, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think even fans will be able to attend that final, correct?
No, the whole thing's without fans.
Yeah. See, that would be interesting if at the point of the final, if there are some if they've lifted some restrictions on whatever the Florida laws may be. It would be interesting because it is, at the end of the day, it is a Champions League spot, so there is a little bit of importance. So if FC Dallas were to make the final, and they were to lift a couple of restrictions, then yeah, I could see a group from us going out there and supporting the boys. But until then, yeah, nothing's really on the books. So.
Well, Jerbosi and I were talking about going up to the stadium and just standing outside and doing our thing outside in the parking lot. So whether they do a watch party up there or not, at least we can all just meet up there. And
it would be sick if and I know we mentioned it in the meeting this past couple of weeks to the front office. It would be interesting to see if they could literally do a drive-in movie theater type thing outside the stadium so everybody can come watch. That'd be cool. And everybody just stays in their cars and we do our social distancing thing, and that would be that'd be a unique, cool experience. And I think that would serve well to reignite the fan base back into caring, back into supporting the team, etc. Yeah, that'd be fun.
There's a team that's
Yeah,
done
no
that in
doubt.
Europe.
Oh, I don't doubt. Yeah, I feel like I've heard of teams doing that before, like having watch parties outside their stadium. So yeah, it'd be cool.
And even if they let us watch on the Jumbotron, or I mean, this is a good opportunity for them to just like run the setup, like they're gonna do a
Oh,
watch party
true.
and just
Yeah.
see what that looks like at the stadium, and just like get people there. So, whatever they're working on, I would assume that that's probably part of it. But, we were just talking about like even if they don't post anything, if we don't, regardless of whatever happens, like we can always just do our thing up there. But yeah, it'll be exciting to see. It'll be exciting to see kind of we'll be able to get out there and probably more excited to see what happens when excuse me, those regular season games open up in August and September. Yeah, it'll be cool. But we'll find something, I'm sure, to do for these next. I guess how long is the tournament? It's 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
35 days.
But just one last thing, Stephen, if just kind of preliminarily speaking, it would be like say we make the final of this tournament in the most FC Dallas fashion, right? Winning something other than MLS Cup, right? We could do something, even if it isn't an official FC Dallas thing. Obviously, we'd like to make it official, right? So we can have more people there, etc. But dude, I'd be totally down to get both groups to push out on social media to like meet up at like outside the stadium, and we'll bring like TVs and stuff, and we'll like hook up our like YouTube TV or whatever, and have some like unofficial watch parties. I'd be down to do that for sure. And like
Yeah, that'd be
tailgate and
awesome.
cook out and
A
stuff.
little darker, and yeah, just project it up on a wall or something, and we could do a recreation of the U.S. Open Cup walk-in. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, man.
Oh, yeah.
Man. Oof. Good memories. Good memories of Cup finals.
Yeah, no doubt.
Now, don't get anyone scared with the flares and smoke bombs.
Oh, yeah, we can't be having none of that none of that stuff.
You said it, not me.
None of that fun stuff. I kind of want to like maybe take things down a notch just a little bit. Another thing that was in the news recently was Jesse Gonzalez being suspended. With an allegation and report made to Frisco police about domestic abuse. I just wonder what it really. It's kind of hard because you don't want to support the allegation, but at the same time, it's a player of a team you support. So I just wonder where you how you really felt with that, and particularly I wanted to get Stephen's view. I know DBG is a very socially active group. So Stephen, how did you take that news?
Yeah, I mean, personally, to me, when I saw that, I was just, it's always tough to be associated with that. And anytime I hear about that from a player for pretty much any professional sports league, I feel like you are able to, you have the opportunity to not put yourself in those types of positions, right? Walk away, do whatever. So whenever a Cowboy or, whatever, a Star or a Maverick, any of that stuff, public indecency, drunk driving, all that stuff. I mean, being a professional athlete is an extreme privilege, right? So to me, when I hear that type of stuff, I don't think the teams that I support should do whatever they can to distance themselves and not associate with anybody that's even like remotely allegations, charges, all that stuff. To me, it's that those are just not actions becoming of a professional athlete. So, to me, I know, and the feedback I've kind of seen from a lot of the members is, even if he does come back or if it's just a suspension, because there's been kind of, I don't want to say inconsistencies, but there's been some different results or rulings on players throughout the league, and the majority of the people that I've heard speak up about the issue obviously say, like, I don't want him starting, I don't want him on the bench, I don't want him on FC Dallas. So, like I said, to me, that's something where, I've only sifted through the headlines. I haven't read deep into a lot of the history or the background of anything. But, from what I've been told and from what I've kind of read across the headlines from multiple publications, it just seems like that's something we can't be associated with, and obviously just not something we want to be a part of or have a player on our team linked to. So, like I said, the majority of everybody I've heard from speak up in DVG has said the exact same thing. So.
Yeah, and then I guess I'll add a little bit here. I think it sucks that like this is the news that we get as FC Dallas fans during this break. out of like all the things that could have happened, this is very unfortunate for like our fan base and our community. But like Steven was saying, like these are serious allegations. Obviously, everybody is presumed innocent until proven guilty in our legal system. But as a society and as a team, as a community, as a club, we should always take these with the utmost importance that these allegations do deserve. It's just very unfortunate that this is the news that comes out during the break of FC Dallas of any note. So echo mostly everything Steven said as well. So we'll see how it plays out, and if anything even remotely starts to come true in far as these allegations are concerned, then yeah, he has no place in our community, our club, and our team. So
fortunately, Franco posted a picture from the Omni not long after, so
Oh yeah, that was
on an uptick. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then one from the training field yesterday.
Did he practice yesterday, Dan?
He's not allowed to practice with the team, but he's doing individual workouts.
And why is that? Just technical reasons or like contract stuff? Or?
Just because the transfer window.
Gotcha. Cool.
Which is just kind of weird. I've actually asked FC Dallas and MLS today, like, the transfer window is supposed to open the day before the tournament begins, but they put this indefinite pause on it. So have they unpaused it and not told anyone? Lucci seems hopeful that he's going to be participating in Orlando, but I don't know.
What a bummer if he couldn't, right? That'd be terrible if he couldn't. It would be, it would be brutal if he couldn't participate there.
No, definitely. Although there was a story earlier today, Tom Boga at MLS did mention that Colorado have signed a new homegrown, looking at starting with the summer transfer window on July 7th. So maybe that means they're under the belief that it will be open, and that would mean that Hara would be available.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I think for him, and then I guess as the club as well, it'd be so nice for him to have a quote unquote preseason, right? Use this tournament as like a kind of like a getting used to the play style, the players, etc. So this could be good for him to have his own little preseason.
I know you sort of mentioned the potential of a second 24-hour tailgate if the stadium does open up and we do get another. Like a true resumption of the season with fans, is that something that's on the cards, or is that more just we'll see, maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't?
Yeah, I definitely hope it happens. I hope we're able to get out there. I hope we're able to provide a safe environment for people where they feel comfortable and they can come out and have a good time and ramp back up and try to get that season, that in-season vibe going again and to what we all enjoy, and whether that's 24-hour part 2 or, one of the things I was actually kind of sort of kicking around mentally, and then at the end of the call the other day with Katz and Nicole was, could we do something, like could we I was asking if we could use the parking lot where we tailgate for just rent stuff, right? Like whatever we needed to do, distribution, pickup, donation, whatever. Mm-hmm. And I thought it'd be cool if we did like a little, I don't know what you want to call it, but like, we between our groups especially, we have enough pop-ins to like make a huge like borderline carnival, like a fair. We want to get people out to enjoy whatever version of MLS we end up with in 2020, and that's obviously going to be the MLS's back cup, and part of that's the back half of the season. But I think that's on everybody's mind, and certainly we're planning for 24-hour part 2. But I think we'll know more in probably a week or so, kind of what they as far as what does August and September dates look like. We had a great turnout at the first one, but what that means for game day and who's going to be able to sort of go in and what we're going to do outside of that. But something to consider. We're kind of entertaining all options of how we want to condense what we would normally do like in a year, our normal events throughout the course of the year. But like we were talking about earlier, we have a great opportunity to do a co-tournament or co-event with Matador and kind of look to do new things for all of that. So yeah, it's exciting to think that we're going to be able to get back to that and kind of re-kick the season off. And I really hope we get a chance to do that. It's definitely it's definitely on our planner. It's right there, like circled, but we just don't have a date for it. And like I said, hopefully we can provide that same type of atmosphere and environment where people feel safe and want to come out and support the club on game day and also spend some time in.
I think one of the nice things about being able to kind of check in with the supporters groups is that there's definitely, there's the fans that are serious supporters and generate atmosphere and either join in with the supporter group activities or at least are aware of them and kind of are surrounded by them. But there's also, the whether it's casual fans or fans that just want to kind of do their own thing that may not participate in the SG stuff or necessarily be too aware about it. So I guess I'd like to kind of close really with giving you both just a chance to maybe send a message to those fans. I'd like to start with you, Luis. What does El Matador present to fans that maybe aren't members of supporters groups, and how can they help in their own way to deliver what your group's message is to the team, to the community, really, to all those terms that Lucci uses constantly?
Yeah, so I'll take it this time to say a little story before I close here. Me, anecdotally in particular, the way I found El Matador was one day in 2014, I went to the game and I saw people that were banging drums, waving flags, jumping up and down, singing, and I was like, those people are cool. I want to join those people. And one of the things that stood out to me from the very beginning was how open and friendly and how much of a family atmosphere that group at the time provided to me. And that is something that we have tried and we focus on doing for others. So if you've ever felt like, hey, I want to join a supporters group, I want to join EM, but I don't know anybody, I'm kind of embarrassed / awkward to just walk up and say, hey, can I join? Feel free to reach out to us on Twitter, at El Matador FCD, on Facebook, or to me personally on Twitter at LuisDollar09. We welcome everybody. And one of the things that you'll learn straight away when joining our group is how everybody is treated as family. That's one of the things that we pride ourselves on, and we'll make you feel right at home. So for anybody, like I said, who is not, if they feel awkward or whatever, just reach out to us. We'll introduce you to the right people and we'll get you going. And then as far as what you can do on an individual level, on game day and or on social media, etc. Look, we understand that oftentimes it is when it comes to the game day atmosphere, it is oftentimes tough for somebody sitting in sections that aren't the Garden to feel like they can participate in that, the game day atmosphere. But that's not what the fan should be, right? It doesn't matter where you sit or where you're located. You can always produce something to the atmosphere. So on our Facebook page, we have our chant sheets for those who are interested. But even if you don't sit in the Garden, I always tell people, don't feel like the urge that it's it'd be awkward for you to sing in whatever section you're in. That's one of the things that I noticed when I first came to FC Dallas games. I would sit on the east or the west side, and I'd feel like it was not socially acceptable for me to sing, or it'd be awkward, or people would look at me funny. But I think one of the things that we as a club should be focusing on is normalizing this behavior. That no matter where you sit in the stadium, whether it's in the Garden or not, that the normalization of singing, the normalization of clapping, the normalization of bringing signs, all these things that add to the atmosphere should be something that we as a club should be striving to achieve. So, like I said, follow us on social media. That's the best way to get in contact with us. And never feel afraid, awkward, to come up to us and say, hey, I'm not part of your group, but I want to be. And we'll be there to welcome you in.
Yeah, I mean, I think I couldn't agree more than what Luis said. It was kind of a similar path that got me to DBG, is just doing what it is that I love, doing what it is that I enjoy, and supporting the club in the way that I wanted to. Right, I saw a way that I could not necessarily do what is, quote unquote conventional. I would just encourage people to do the same thing, support however you can. It doesn't matter what it is. It matters that you're doing something right. And so however you want to contribute, for us in the garden, obviously it's standing for 9 minutes and doing our best to go mental and make as much noise and create as much atmosphere as physically possible, both, in an audio and in a visual way. And I think I contribute, in equal measure. So I would just encourage everybody to do the same. And like Luis says, it's about encouraging people and promoting that type of behavior and making sure that everybody understands, like, that's what we want. That's what we're going for. And, we do our best to kind of engage the crowd, I think, with some of our larger chants, you might call them, and getting that rolling throughout the stadium, especially when it's crucial or when it's a big game, and there's been times where we've gotten a really good response. But, to me, it's everybody do what you love and be proud about that. And like I said, support people when you see them supporting. So, that's, again, to me, that's kind of the whole thing, right? Do what you love and support the club in the way that you feel best. And it's not going to be the same for everybody, but together it's going to create a fantastic atmosphere, because some people are going to play instruments and some people are going to paint signs and banners and some people are going to stand on the capel box and some people are going to clap the whole time and some people are going to be there just to support everybody else in whatever way they can, bring them water or just stand next to them and be there for them. So it's really that simple, just support the club in the way that you love to and that makes you happy to create that atmosphere.
Just like to add to that, I mean, I've became a member of Dallas Beer Guardians in 2012 when I first moved to Dallas. I've always believed in supporting your local team, and the first thing I did was seek that out and kind of figure out what the best fit was for me. For people who maybe aren't too familiar with supporters groups and just kind of look on and say, yeah, they look like they're having fun, they're making a lot of noise, I kind of want to get involved with that. The fact that your tailgate to, in the same area on the west side of the stadium now, in the red lot, I mean, it's not something, it's not something that you have to be invited to. It's a very public thing. There are banners, there's, a lot of people, a lot of canopies. It's very obvious that there are supporters activities there. I think it's really cool that both groups are so open. DBG might have the Petty Colas kegs and El Matador may have cans brought over from Tups Brewery. Both have the grills going, different things. And if you want to donate to both groups, great. But, the most important thing is sort of go and hang out and familiarize yourself with the people and see what the fit is for you. I think that's such a good element that a lot of other teams don't have, where some teams don't have a space for tailgating or just socially they're kind of different.
I think that's a great call out, man. And it's back to what we were just talking about. Like, some people, their deal is they love to make food and provide for everybody, and they're out there every game day. They're out there, getting stuff ready days before, getting everything prepped, getting everything situated, getting it all ready to go, so that hundreds of people, between our two groups, like hundreds of people can eat. That's a massive undertaking, right? And so I think, like you said, you seek out what it is that you enjoy, and there's people that know the same thing, and I think that's at the core of both of ours, is just, engaging the community and attracting those people of like minds and kind of, just showing them that, hey, there's every opportunity to support the club and kind of however you want to.
Yeah, for sure. And I think one last thing I'll add that Stephen kind of mentioned there is, tailgates, and I guess Dan to as well, as tailgates are the perfect place to really see how family friendly, how much of an atmosphere that we create, on game days. Tailgates are the best place to do this. So if you're ever wanting to join, or you like I said, you ever felt like you wanted to take a part but you didn't know how, show up to one of our tailgates. Like Dan said, they're public. They're for everybody. Obviously, we take vast pride in our tailgates and the food that we create, both groups, and we do that out of our pockets. So we do, obviously, if you do come, it'd be great if you drop a couple dollars in the bucket. But like at the end of the day, like Dan was saying, the most important thing is that you're there and you're supporting the team. And and yeah, like once this thing starts back up again, we'll be doing our tailgates, like Dan said, as normal. We got our friends over at Tups in Fort Worth supplying us with the beverages. But yeah, just come out to a tailgate, introduce yourself, say hi, and that's probably the best way to get things going as far as your SG experience is concerned.
Absolutely. It does create a great environment, and definitely something to recommend to people. I do like being able to just park up, stroll through, go through both tailgates, see your friends in both groups, and then on the way into the stadium or at the times I get to hang out to spend that more time. And that's going to wrap it up for this week. Luis, Stephen, thank you both for participating in this week's podcast, and thank you, FC Dallas Curious Fan, for joining us for episode 65. If you like what you hear, what you read on the blog, or how we report via social media, please consider supporting Third Degree on Patreon. Buzz does endeavour to make exclusive content for patrons, whether that's the Third Degree burns, instant reactions, or times we've released raw audio from interviews. We do appreciate everyone who subscribes or just follows what we're doing through this enforced shutdown. You can also check out our TeePublic store, which is linked from the blog at thirddegree.net. And thanks again, and join us as we should have some current talk to talk about next week on another episode of Third Degree, the podcast.